everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Jacqueline Coley. I'm the awards editor at Rotten Tomatoes, and it is my honor to moderate this conversation with the cast and filmmakers of Hotel Cocaine. So here we go, folks. Please welcome star Mark Feuerstein, Yul Vazquez, Danny Pino, our executive producer and showrunner, Chris Brancato, and the man behind the story that you all watched, and also co-executive producer, Maurice Compte. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me up here. Everyone got to see that riveting first episode. I'm gonna start with you, Maurice, because this is kind of where it all really did begin, but tell us how, if folks didn't notice, the man that Danny plays and Maurice have the same last name in the show. So talk about your connection to this and how it came to be.
Well, back in, I believe, 2014, I had a conversation with Chris was having a conversation where they were talking about a documentary called Cocaine Cowboys. And I stepped into it, was my recollection, and I said, my dad was a cocaine cowboy. And Chris was like, what? And I said, yeah, he was. And that conversation sort of ended there because we were doing narcos at the time. And then later on, I went, I met Chris at his apartment, and we were having the conversation. I said, yeah, my dad ran a club called the Mutiny. And he was like, really? And I guess Chris, trying to scare me off, said, why don't you write something on it? And I was like, yeah. So then 5 years later, I turned something into Chris, and that was really the beginning of it.
I love that story. And Chris, you have a different perspective on it, but talk a bit about, first of all, the 5-year wait. But once you did get what he sent, why we're now sitting here watching it on the screen.
Well, thank you, Jacqueline. And I'm so sorry I forgot to say that you were moderating this. This is Jacqueline Coley from Rotten Tomatoes.
I'm here. They know.
I just had the most deepest, peaceful 1 hour sleep I've had in a long time.
Lies.
Seen it for 100 times. So Maurice was starring in Narcos, which I produced and wrote in Colombia, and he mentioned his dad, and then I had this thought, this is Casablanca on cocaine. And whenever an actor mentions to me an idea for a TV series, I immediately shut it down by saying, please, write it up. I've never gotten a single piece of paper from an actor in my entire life. 5 years later, I received this treatment from Maurice. It's called North of Havana, and it discusses his father's experiences at the Mutiny. Portions of this, of course, are heavily fictionalized in order to create a plot drive. For instance, Maurice's dad did not have an older brother. He certainly knew all the major traffickers in the Mutiny Hotel, and there were certainly DEA and CIA and others there. But we had to create the fiction in order to give drive to the plot, and also the themes we were exploring, I think, were true then and true now. I don't believe you should do period pieces unless you're making a commentary about today. So for instance, the show is about immigration, it's about drug use, it's about brotherhood, it's about loyalty. I learned belatedly that Maurice's girlfriend and now wife, who's a journalist, had actually written that 5-page document.
Who I'm sure is here, so let's give her a round of applause.
So she's the uncredited genesis of this project. Now that they're married, I guess she has a piece of the back end.
That's a good way of putting it. Danny, sir, all of us have been saying yes. you and this incredible cast on our screens for many years, but I have to feel after just watching this first episode and now knowing what we have in store, this is a different production for you in a lot of ways. And I would imagine it was probably an interesting moment to dive into it as somebody who maybe lived aspects of it, although not as crazy. What was it like for you to step into this role of Roman?
Wow. First of all, thank you, Jacqueline, for moderating, and thank you, Austin, for having us. We feel very welcomed to bring our hotel and our cocaine to Austin. Roman Compte. To be able to play somebody who existed, who lived and breathed, who was a singular character in Miami, but sometimes singular characters can change the world. And with Maurice, his guidance, trying to understand who this man actually was. And then through Chris Brancato's intellect, his talent for an interesting narrative, for a sort of pulsating drive for a character, giving him the engine of his family to protect his family, something that is on a molecular level so difficult to fight against. And then giving Roman another piece of his family, that is the polarity of his brother and the loyalty that he has towards his brother, even though they're estranged, and making a character like Zulio, a DEA agent, be the catalyst for having Roman having to choose between these two huge figures in his life. That just makes for, we said earlier today, a very rich broth for a character and for a series. And so to be able to inhabit that is a gift for any actor. And then when you add to that the specificity of the Cuban American experience that is so often overlooked or unexplored or explored poorly, to be able to be sitting next to Chris Brancato, who has given us a platform for that, and then looked towards Maurice, towards myself, and towards Yul as Cuban Americans and saying, okay, what I don't know about this culture, can you help me sort of inform the show with that, and being a collaborative partner so that we can give voice to the voiceless.
I mean, incredibly well said. The specificity of this show, it's like you can almost smell it. Like, I'm not there, but like it's like it comes. See, they felt it. They know what I'm talking about.
It smells like Drakkar Noir.
But that tangibility that it has is definitely through to the broth, to your point, Danny, but it's also through these incredible characters. And I'll say it, we've seen kingpins before, but what you and what these folks will see when they watch the rest of the show, you bring so much more tangibleness to it. I don't think we've really seen this version of this type of, drug lord sort of thing where you're just going back and forth with sort of your stuff. What was that like for you? Because it's maybe a character in the hands of a less talented team that doesn't have that sort of duality that you get to see with this character through these episodes.
Well, thank you for the question, and thank you for being our moderator, because I know you have your pick of what you want to do. So we're very, very blessed to have you. I think I bring a sexiness to the character. So.
I'm glad you said it.
That's never been seen on a motion.
And not to mention the humility.
Humility on a motion picture screen. No, listen. We've been talking a lot about the show today because we've been doing several interviews, and all I can ever bring to anything, and Chris will tell you, I've worked with Chris before. What I can bring to the thing that is unique is just me. So it's a filter of me. So it's like, there's a lot, my uncle Raymond, who was in the actual Bay of Pigs invasion, is living in that character. It's a stew of a few things. Thank you for seeing it and through the eyes of what you just expressed. I just think that there's, we are many things. We are not one thing, all of us. We are many things. Sometimes you're like, that guy's really nice, and then you guys, that guy's not nice. You know what I mean? And they're all valid. So that's all I can ever try to bring to any of this.
You definitely bring that too. And I'm going to tease a little bit of some of those colors that I talked about that we'll get to see in later episodes. Because in this first one, you're just terrifying, brilliantly terrifying. But I love it. Mark.
Hello, Jacqueline. Hello, everybody.
Sir, I just am going to tell the folks, wait till y'all see what this man does throughout the season. And if you can forgive me, we're far way away from royal pains. Listen.
Yes.
But how fun is that as an actor? Because there's a lot more to your character. You're not just, coming in for comedic relief and serious, chaotic cocaine energy. There's a lot of heart behind what your character is doing. But how fun is that just to be as broad as possible? Because I've seen you on a lot. This is a bit of a departure role for you and stepping into some different energy that y'all are going to love. Oh. So how much fun was that for you to really sort of break that mold a bit?
Thank you so much for that question. And thank you for doing this. And I'm so happy to be back at the ATX Festival. I love it here, and you mentioned Royal Pains. We premiered Royal Pains here at the ATX Festival in 2008, so it's such a thrill to be back here. I really love this festival. And yes, that role was much more straight arrow, a role model, a doctor. This character is not a role model. I hope my kids never see it. But when I got the script, it blew my mind. It was like the dream to play something so far from what I've gotten to play before. And I really went for it in my audition. I had to put myself on tape, and I got on my leopard print onesie that I had gone to the one time I went to Burning Man. Took a plate of powdered sugar into my garage, snorted off of it, and submitted my self-tape. And you just, you go with God, you hope. And then I had this unbelievable Zoom with Mr. Chris Brancato here, who, unlike any showrunner in my entire career, where you don't know who's auditioning who in that first meeting, gets on the Zoom and he says, Mark, we watch 40 to 50 tapes for every role, and it usually comes down to two, maybe one's better than the other, but it's usually two guys. In this case, there was one, and it was you. And it just knocked me out. And I was over the moon, because this is a dream role and a dream cast and a dream crew and the directors and the writing. Oh, it's so delicious. So I'm so grateful for this part and this show.
Thank you. And again, I really want y'all, thank you.
I have to make a full disclosure. I have to say very nice things about all the actors, lest they try to renegotiate their contracts for next year. But Mark's audition is one of the few. First of all, Yul and Danny did a tandem audition over Zoom with the executives. It must have been horrific, because you had 6 executive producer and MGM executive faces on it, and then poor Danny and Yul had to spin the lines during the middle of COVID, tossing them back and forth. And we knew right away that these two were the brothers, the proper people to play it. So that was gratifying. Mark's audition, as he says, is, that 30 or 40 auditions I watch off of a computer that are sent to me are culled out of hundreds. In other words, those are what are given to me by the casting director as the best. And Mark's was so good, so joyously outrageous, that it's really the only audition I've ever taken around to family and friends. And said, look what we got for this one. I'm bugging people at the dinner table. So, and Maurice, of course, who is the inspiration for the show, will be in season 2 in some horrifically mean, Cuban secret agent role or something. I'm still trying to figure that out. But
Love that.
That was a very important statement. Number one, that Maurice is going to be part of the show in front of the camera. Number two, you said season 2.
oh,
All right.
Yeah. If there's MGM snipers out there, he said it. You can't be mad at me.
I'm calling my agent
MGM,
immediately.
The MGM people are angry at me for saying that. I often...
Well, no, this brings me to my next question, because for you, Maurice, I'm sure it was a little bit of uncanny valley because one, this is what you wanted. You wanted this story to sort of be told, but there's got to be some moments of both like joy and also uncomfortableness, like maybe when it hits too close or maybe when it goes too far. What would you say was the most interesting part of seeing your story adapted and being a part of that executive team that was sort of deciphering where you were going with places?
Well, I just want to say, I think right now, like 10 minutes ago, people thought I was actually sleeping backstage, and I was just like, but I was literally just basking in how grateful I am to be here. There's so many times that I've had this dream continually happen over and over again where I step into it. It happened, obviously, in the beginning with Chris, when he called me and told me that the show was a go. I closed my eyes and I just couldn't believe it. I was back in Miami doing a play recently, and they're like, you remember, it's so amazing, Maurice, that you're doing this. Like, you remember talking to us at the end of high school about how this was gonna happen one day, that you were gonna do a show about your dad's life? Danny and I were doing Mayans, and I don't know if he actually truly remembers, but when Chris told me it was happening, I knew, we're all Latin, we're all Latin, but there's so many different hues to that palette. And I knew that I wanted Danny to play my dad. I've known Danny for years. I saw Danny perform. When I did the play, I was in the same theater where I saw Danny do Romeo and Juliet just out of high school. And I went to Danny and I said, there's something happening. I would love for, if it happened. I was very cryptic about it. And then I left. We were doing Mayans at the time. Yul, I've known for years. It's a dream that continues to happen. We were out in the DR and I was watching it. I was watching one of the scenes through the monitor, and I realized I was having a conversation in my head with my dad, who passed in 2007. And it was just like, wow, I can't express to you guys how amazing it is to be doing this. The idea that I'm going to be working with these guys in the future is just more. It's more of the pot of gold. It continues to regenerate itself. Chris is a mentor to me, and just I'm beyond words. I truly am, and I'm grateful to be sitting here amongst you, with you, amongst you guys. And I say it all the time. This is it. This is the maximum. There'll be other maximums, but for right now, this is the pinnacle. So.
Wow. In just a moment, I'm going to ask one more question, but I'm not the only one. I'm sure some of you would like to maybe ask these incredible filmmakers and cast some questions about the show. But before I do that, I have to talk to you a little bit, Chris, about the visual language of Hotel Cocaine, because look, I think we've all seen those maybe TV adaptations of the late 1970s, but everything about this one felt just the right amount of grungy, just the right amount of Miami humidity. How did you sort of find that visual language of Hotel Cocaine so that it felt completely authentic to the time, but also not like every other adaptation of that time?
Well, first of all, I've made yet another horrible omission, aside from not mentioning you at the top, but Guillermo Navarro is our partner in this. He's an executive producer and the producing director of the show. Guillermo is most well known as being the cinematographer Guillermo del Toro, and so Navarro won an Oscar for Pan's Labyrinth for photography, and we worked together on a show, Hannibal, years ago, and formed a very fast friendship. And so Navarro and I went to Puerto Rico, Colombia, Dominican Republic, scouting for places that would look like the Miami of the 70s, because the Miami of 2024 does not look anything like Miami of the 70s. So we landed on DR as the place where literally the watercolor was the proper color. The beaches were the right quality. The height of the buildings, it wasn't overbuilt. In fact, many buildings we found, including the hotel you see there, hadn't even been refurbished since the 70s, which is maybe not a great thing, but it was good for us. The other thing I have to say about working with these actors is, you know, I do Godfather of Harlem, which features Forrest Whitaker as a crime boss. I did Narcos, which is obviously set in Colombia. And I've worked with these folks, with the exception of Feuerstein, who's teaching me about the Jewish experience. The Cuban actors I'm working with here teach me so much and are so necessary and valuable, as well as the one writer we had who was Cuban. We'll have a few more next year, Danny, I promised. But in any case, to show you my gringo-ness, years ago, before Narcos started, I was sitting with Navarro, who I was hiring to do a couple of episodes of Narcos, and I was bragging to him that we were getting actors, that literally the major film stars of Chile and Argentina and this country and that country, to come to Colombia to play these roles. I was getting the biggest actors of those countries. And so he said, well, what are you going to do about the accents? And I said, what do you mean? They all speak Spanish. And I was quickly disabused of the notion that Spanish is said in accentless form in every country. And so what I need to do is learn as much from these folks as I supposedly teach them. Most of my brilliance comes from ChatGPT. Most of them know.
You won your first Emmy before there was ChatGPT, sir. Stop.
That's true. No, but so I have to do a lot of research, and I have to do a lot of creative thinking about how to set up the dramatic equation that creates stakes and drive. And really the biggest measurement is this: when the first episode is over, do you want to watch the next? I think a lot about that. So we dump Chucho out in front of the hospital. Is he going to live? Is he going to rat out Roman as a rat? Who knows? Watch episode 2. But what's so vital to the process, and what's so exciting about the collaboration that's part of film and television making, is it truly takes a village, quote unquote. And we had over 300 people working on this. And so Danny and Yul, Mark, nobody would hesitate, and I never create a barrier between discussion with the actors about how they feel the scene might be approached, or where I'm making a grotesque mistake in terms of culture or even just character move. So I say to them, I'm the guardian of all 35 characters in the show and the setting and the scenes. You guys are the individual guardians of your specific character, and you know a lot more about that character than I ever would have the brain power to do so. So part of this is all what makes making this type of art or entertainment, fun, which is truly the coming together of different cultures and minds to create something that hopefully touches everybody and has a universal quality to it.
I love that. So well said. Okay, do we have anybody lined up yet? I think here they come. Here we come.
I just want to ask if somebody recorded the part where Chris said how valuable and important the actors are. And if you did, please get that to me ASAP.
Oh, they're gonna post it all over ATX Fest. We've got it. All right, I'm gonna start over here. Is this okay? Oh, we'll start over here. Look, y'all can't do that. It's you now. It's you now. I'm so sorry. It's you now. Yes, come step into it. We're excited that you're here.
Thank you. Well, I'm excited. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Okay. Well, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you. I was super excited, but I low-key, now I'm really scared of you guys after this. Now I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to say anything. Well, I want to say thanks especially to Danny, because all my homegirls are really jealous of me right now because I'm talking to you. But I also wanted to say thanks because your role in Cold Case got me through college, and I was working to become fluent in Spanish at the time, and your role really, really helped me. And I was simultaneously learning about the history of both the Black community and the Hispanic community. So it was super helpful. And then I went on to have a career centered in serving both of these communities, and the work that you do really helps to educate me. So I saw you as an educator, respectfully, a cute educator.
All right, where are we going with the question, sweetie? We gotta get to the cue part.
Wait, hold on. I'll let her keep talking.
Yeah, exactly. See? And so I was wondering, to your point, I was wondering, like, what is it like for you to go from more of a good guy educator and a not so good guy and still be an educator?
That's a great one.
That's a beautiful, great question. Thank you for your kindness. What is your name?
My name's Alice.
Alice.
Yeah.
Alice, it's good to meet you. Thank you for talking about Cold Case. I mean, that was...
I miss it.
I love that show so much, and the people on it. It was my great good fortune to have been a part of that show, and to hear you use the word educator. Oh, wow, that was my first headshot.
Coming with the receipt.
I don't really like a whole lot of celebrities, but you really helped me a lot. No, I'm serious from an educational standpoint.
I appreciate you using that word, educator. My mother was a teacher. She's retired now. I have 2 brothers who are teachers. I have 3 sister-in-laws who are educators. And that word means something to me, emotionally and otherwise. Oftentimes when we're working on things, we don't realize what our reach is. You know, especially when we're in Juan Dolio in the Dominican Republic, and we're almost, isolated from the rest of the world. It almost feels like we're in a vacuum. It does kind of feel like we are in 1978 Miami, and we're the only ones who are, right? We're like, everybody else outside of the production is living this more modern life, but we're in it. And so to be reminded, Alice, of, the how we impact other people is beautiful, and I appreciate those words, and I'm happy that I was able to be of any service to you. But playing a positive role model versus maybe playing somebody who's more complicated and maybe has more negativity, I think that's probably more of a judgment made by an audience, a viewer, right? As an actor, it doesn't really serve to judge the character in that way. It's really about the circumstances that a brilliant writer puts your character in. And one of the comments I believe that a great writer makes is, what are we all capable of, given certain circumstances in our lives coalescing to perhaps make us make decisions and choices that we wouldn't under a more comfortable circumstance. But what if it's not comfortable? What if you are trapped and you are forced to make a decision or to take an action that you wouldn't normally take? And so once you take that action, who are you? Are you the former person, or deep inside, are you really that person who is willing to take that action? And I think the answer to that for everybody will be different. And for an actor, that's the gift. The gift is, I want to play this range. And how can I choose a role or be lucky enough, be in a position to be chosen to play a role that is complicated, that is very much in the gray area. Cold Case had moments of that with Scotty Valens. SVU had moments of that with Nick Amaro. Mayans had moments of that with Miguel Galindo. And I'm here to say, because I know what happens in, from the first to the 8th episode, Roman Compte is no different.
That's a great one.
No
Also,
gracias.
thank you. Also, 150 episodes of Cold Case. That's insane. You did 150 episodes of that. Okay,
That's
we're going to get our last question over here, I think.
So much polyester in this show. I think the only thing that's missing is I need less buttons buttoned and more gold chains.
Girl.
And Mark, love the cabana set. Love the cabana set on that one. How important is costuming into you being able to step into this role? Like, did you guys get a chance to share your opinions of how you think the person should look, or like just what does costuming do to you to bring out these types of characters?
Thank you for that question. The first name we have to share with you is Adela Cortazar, because she is our costume genius, and she did so much work to find authentic 70s outfits that were right for each of these characters. And she had to leave us in Juan Dolio, Dominican Republic, to go to LA, to go to every thrift store up and down the coast to find clothing for us. And I think our show looks more authentically 70s than any show, any movie I've seen before, because it's not just hitting it to sell the 70s, it's hitting an authenticity and a color palette that I've never seen before. So she's amazing, and it helps all of us, each of us, to step into our characters, especially in one particular episode when I'm not wearing much at all. But don't worry about that. You'll get there. You'll get there.
Wait till y'all see. All right, I'm gonna try and get this very last question before we get out of here, but I'll remind everyone, if you didn't get to ask your question, you can tweet it out to MGM, and they have a social handle, and maybe we can get your questions answered that way. Go right ahead.
Hunter S. Thompson plays a pretty significant role in this episode. Will we see more historical figures of the 70s visiting the hotel?
Yes, we will here and there. We had a choice to make. You'll see the great Rick James in episode 2. Little spoiler alert. Who spent a lot of time at the Mutiny sampling its wares, and the Maharishi in episode 3. But we didn't want to make it a guest of the week show, so that especially as these characters and these great actors came to the foreground in their stories. So yes, you do have these little bits and pieces of the history. You'll see a spot on a TV show of Three's Company or something like that brings you back to the time. So we thought we were trying to be as faithful as we could to some of the personages of the period, without overdoing it. And then one final person I forgot to mention is Kyle Hamilton out there sitting in the audience, who is who wrote on the show and is also one of the driving forces to keeping my life from just completely falling apart. So. But yeah, I think the other thing to mention is the department heads on the show. Not only Adela, who did the costumes, she scouted multiple cities to get to buy period clothes, but she also made a lot of the clothes herself. Raimundo Cabrera, who designed those incredible sets. The Mutiny Club is a stage set. All those rooms that you see in the individual rooms in the hotel were built and designed by him, some modeled after real suites in the Mutiny and others that we made up ourselves, and just the entire department from transpo to I can't remember all the departments now, but it was over 350 people working once again in concert to try to do. It always amuses me that that ran for about 50 minutes, and while Maurice was meditating, I truly was sleeping very deeply. But thousands and thousands of man and woman hours went into the creation of that single episode. So my hat's off to them.
Wow, and it shows. Okay. Everyone at ATX Television, I want to remind you, you have a year subscription of MGM inside your goodie bag. So there's no excuses for you and everyone, to not make sure that you watch Hotel Cocaine when it premieres on Father's Day, June 16th. And now you can preview for them what they get to watch. I want to thank our incredible panel. I want to thank the folks at MGM and obviously ATX Television Festival and all of you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline.